Hello and welcome to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. Hope everybody's having a great Memorial Day out there. I know I am, and I'm going to be hitting the pool later here and, grilling out with my family and having a good time here as we head into this afternoon. But first things first, we do have a moderate risk of severe weather here across the middle of the country. And I do want to kind of start with saying that I do appreciate you guys getting me over 100 subscribers. I do thank you for that. And also here liking my video and leaving any of your comments below here is very much appreciated. So I do thank you, and do subscribe more to my channel. I'm trying to grow this channel even further. My new goal here now is 200 by the end of June or the middle of June. So please help me get there. I'm trying to get there here, so do help me, and that will be very much appreciated. So now back to the weather here. We do have moderate risk of severe weather across much of the state here in Minnesota, getting into the eastern South Dakota. A very, likely setup for a severe weather and even a tornado outbreak as we head into this afternoon and this evening. We do even have a slight and enhanced risk zone down into the eastern Dakotas, getting down through portions of central Iowa and western Iowa, and then getting into northwestern Missouri, southeastern portions there of Nebraska, and into eastern Kansas as well, with the marginal risk extending down into northwestern Oklahoma as we head into this afternoon. Another marginal risk across the western coast there of the peninsula of Florida into far southern Georgia as well, with maybe some pulse type thunderstorms that kind of here develop for a couple hours and then kind of fall apart with the heating of the day as we head into this afternoon and this evening. But looking back to the north here, we do the Storm Prediction Center has added a 30 and even a 45% and then hatched area here of wind, which could be up to near 80, maybe even 90 miles per hour here as we head into this afternoon. So some very strong winds. Also a 30%, and also included is a hatched area of hail from portions of Minnesota, eastern South Dakota, central and western Iowa, getting down into far northwest Missouri, into eastern portions there of Kansas along that cold front. And we could have 2-inch to up to maybe even 4-inch size hail as we head into late this afternoon and into this evening. And then that tornado risk is pretty significant across two zones here. The most significant across portions of Minnesota, getting into eastern South Dakota, where we have that 10 to 15% hatched tornado risk area, where we could see tornadoes up to EF2 strength as we head into later this afternoon. So some very, very powerful storms possible here in that general area as well. Also, you can see that 5% area gets over into western Wisconsin here and to portions here of southeastern Minnesota as well. And then another 10% area of tornadoes across central Iowa. This does include the Des Moines area, getting down just north of Kansas City, and then down towards portions there of northeast Kansas here, with another 10% area along that cold front of some tornadoes here as we head into later this afternoon. So let's kind of look at the composite reflectivity of what we're seeing and potentially could see on radar heading into late this afternoon, this evening. We got some thunderstorms already ongoing across South Dakota, northern Nebraska, and those are already producing some severe thunderstorm warnings, maybe even a couple tornado warnings here as we head through the day today. And this will continue to invigorate. We'll have a lot of moisture pooling up ahead of this front, so a lot of instability will be growing through the day. And we do got to watch these storms here, kind of these discrete storms ahead of the main kind of kicker here, the main cold front here. And these ones could be the ones that could here be highly rotatable. We could be producing some significant tornadoes, like I said, EF2 to up to EF2 strength here, some extremely large hail, which could be up to 4-inch diameter, and also those very strong wind gusts, especially with this kind of MCS or QLCS line starting to develop here and across South Dakota into western portions there in Minnesota. This will continue to kind of pivot off to the east and northeast here as we head through the evening hours around dinner time or late this afternoon, all the way up toward the Twin Cities area around Minneapolis, St. Paul. We got some other here kind of discrete storms around northwest Iowa we got to watch here. And then more storms developing across northwest Missouri into eastern Kansas. We got to watch these here. These could be tornadic as well, producing some tornadoes, maybe a strong tornado even in these areas as well. And then here we could even be seeing some very large hail up to around 3-4 inches in diameter, and maybe even some 70+ mile per hour wind gusts as well. And then these storms will continue to kind of move off to the east here, still producing some severe weather through the evening hours. The main kind of line or your squall line across portions of eastern and northeastern Minnesota, northwest Wisconsin here up toward the La Crosse area, maybe just to the north and west of you here as we head into early this evening. And this will kind of continue to move to the east with more development across Iowa, northwest Missouri, and eastern Kansas as we head toward later this evening. But in general, this is what the setup is looking like. We have some strong instability here getting pulled up ahead of that front here with that cold front extending from portions of South Dakota into western Iowa all the way down through the central and southern plains here into portions of central Kansas, western Oklahoma, and west Texas. We do have a lot of instability growing across Minnesota into Iowa. We got instability on the values of 3,000 up to near 4,000 joules per kilogram. So almost 3 to 4 times what you need for severe weather here. And this will also be coming with a very strong mid and upper level jet here. We got, wind shear values, effective bulk shear values getting all the way up to around 70 to 80 knots in these areas. So some very strong wind shear here to contend with. And no surprise, this is why we have some very high values of the supercell composite here across, especially south central Minnesota, really going along with that enhanced and that moderate risk zone, and then extending down here into western Iowa as well, and seeing some very high values, almost off the chart type of values of the significant tornado parameter. Especially as you get up here into Minnesota, into northwestern Iowa. This is where we could have those highly rotatable type storms with those very strong tornadoes, the very large hail, and also that damaging wind threat here. But that tornado risk is still pretty real as we head toward late this afternoon and into this evening. And I did take a sounding of west central Minnesota here today. We do have a pretty decently dry mid-levels here, but a lot of speed shear. We got a lot of wind shear here in the mid and low levels of the atmosphere here, showing a PDS tornado tag and a pretty nice looking hodograph here with some backed winds here. We can see winds at the surface kind of out of the south and east here, and a lot of speed shear. We've got winds straight out of the southwest here as we head into the mid-levels, and then the upper levels here, the winds start to die down a little bit, but we do have winds coming out of the south and west, and with instability at the surface up and over 4,000 joules per kilogram on this sounding, there is no surprise a classic type supercell setup here with some strong tornadoes could definitely be a possibility, especially with all these wind barbs showing some very strong wind shear across the low and mid levels of the atmosphere. In addition to the severe weather hazards here, we do also have another type of severe weather hazard. We have flash flooding here. The Weather Prediction Center has upgraded portions here of eastern North Dakota into northwest Minnesota here to a moderate risk for flash flooding as we head into later today as well. And then a very large slight risk zone across the eastern Dakotas into west central Minnesota, getting down into northwestern Nebraska, another slight risk zone across portions of southwestern Iowa, northwest Missouri, southeastern Nebraska, getting into northeast Kansas as well, with a very broad marginal risk here of flash flooding around that as well, getting up toward western Wisconsin here with time. We could have a lot of rainfall with that here as we head into today. But as we head into our Tuesday, we'll have that front start to sag down to the south here a little bit, slowing as it does so. We got an occluding here, kind of low pressure system up into portions of northern Minnesota into the Canadian prairies there, with a cold front extending down here into the upper Midwest and into the Missouri Valley. Ahead of that, a lot of warmth and humidity here developing across these areas, and destabilization of the atmosphere will lead to another day of severe weather as we head into our Tuesday. The Storm Prediction Center has adjusted the slight risk a little farther to the south and east here from previous updates, but still here the forecast remains on track here for a slight risk of severe weather for lower Michigan into northern Indiana, much of north central Illinois here, including the Peoria and Chicago areas, getting up towards South Bend, Indiana, Detroit, Lansing, and portions of Kalamazoo, Michigan, and then extending down in here in much of Missouri as well. This does include Kansas City, portions of Springfield, Missouri here, Joplin, and then getting up toward the St. Louis area. And then that enhanced risk zone here extends from portions of far western Missouri, southeastern portions of Kansas, northwestern Oklahoma, into the here Texas Panhandle, where we could have some here even higher coverage of storms in those areas. And then we do not want to discount the marginal risk here of some pop-up storms here across Florida as well, with some of that tropical moisture here pushing up into those areas as well. We do just have a general 15% wind risk across these areas from lower Michigan into the Texas Panhandle, and then we have a 15 to even 30% hail risk here extending from northern Illinois and southern Lake Michigan all the way down here into portions of north central Missouri, and then that 30% and then hatched hail risk across portions of southeastern Kansas, northern and northwestern Oklahoma, into portions of the eastern Texas Panhandle where you could have 2 to 3 inch size hailstones. And then that tornado risk is down there into the Texas Panhandle at 2 to 5% risk, and also a 2 to 5% risk here. The highest risk of tornadoes will kind of be centered around northwestern Illinois as we head into our Tuesday. So let's kind of play this out. Some ongoing thunderstorms are going to be kind of moving through the Missouri Valley as we head into our Tuesday morning. These will start to fade out as we head to the afternoon, allowing for a lot of daytime heating here with the temperatures increasing here into the 80s. We got a lot of moisture here with dew points rising well into the 70s or well into the 60s and lower 70s across the area. And we'll have by late afternoon some storms firing up across the Texas Panhandle, getting up into southeastern Kansas and into portions of Missouri here. And these are going to be the ones that could produce some very large hail down here with southward extent. But as this front really slows, we're going to have a lot of training of storms, especially across the southern and central plains, and that will produce a lot of heavier rainfall here as well, in addition to the damaging wind, hail, and tornado threat, as this will kind of be, the storms will be kind of parallel to this front as we head into the evening hours here, as we head into our Tuesday. And this will continue across the southern plains here with more severe weather, maybe some heavier rainfall here as we head into Wednesday morning. In general, we do have some pretty strong instability and even some extreme instability values here, especially into the southern plains, all the way up into lower Michigan, into portions of Illinois, Missouri, kind of on the values here, of 2,000 to 3,500 joule per kilogram instability, so moderate to locally strong across these areas of instability or CAPE in the atmosphere, convective available potential energy. And then here, as we get down into southeastern Kansas, much of Oklahoma, into the eastern Texas Panhandle here, we could have instability locally approaching 5,000 joules per kilogram. So some very impressive instability values here for storms, for those air parcels to rise from the surface up into the upper levels. And then we have a pretty strong but slightly displaced mid and upper level jet that'll be across the central plains, getting up into the upper Mississippi Valley and into southwestern portions of Ontario as we head into the evening hours tomorrow. In general here, it does support some supercell development across portions here of the outlook area from southern Ontario all the way down into lower Michigan, portions here of the Lake Michigan into northern Illinois and down in here through Missouri. But the highest value showing up here across portions here of eastern Texas Panhandle into northwest Oklahoma. And there's no surprise where we have a little bit of higher values here of the significant tornado parameter in these areas. Not really expecting a strong tornado tomorrow, but a couple of tornadoes could be possible across, especially the eastern Texas Panhandle, and then again here up into portions of north central Illinois into lower Michigan here as well. In addition, like I said, to the severe weather threat, we do have another type of severe weather, and it is flash flooding here. The Weather Prediction Center has included a large marginal risk area of flash flooding from western Illinois through Missouri, getting down here into southeastern Kansas and northern Oklahoma. And then within that, there is a smaller slight risk zone of flash flooding from southeastern Kansas into portions of northern and northeastern Oklahoma here as well, where we could have several inches of rainfall here falling with that training of thunderstorms moving over the same areas here as we head into tomorrow evening. And then as we head into Wednesday, another outlooked area for severe weather here, 2 outlooked areas for slight risk. The Storm Prediction Center has included much of the state of New York into northern and northwestern Pennsylvania here into northeastern Ohio, and with a slight risk, and then another slight risk here from northwestern Arkansas through central portions there of Oklahoma into the northwestern Texas area here as well. Then a marginal risk kind of extending up here into the lower Missouri Valley, including the foothills of Missouri, getting up through the Ohio Valley here as we head into our Wednesday. And why is this the case? Well, we do have another, the slowing front with an occluding low pressure system here moving up into portions of Manitoba, into western portions there of Ontario. We do have a cold front kind of extending down through the Ohio Valley into the mid-south and the southern plains, and slowing as it does. But ahead of there, a lot of warmth with temperatures rising well into the 80s and 90s, and then we have here even some instability here with all those dew points rising well into the 60s to lower 70s here. So there's no surprise we could have some ongoing storms across the southern plains here on Wednesday morning. Those will start to fade away and dissipate somewhat as we head into the afternoon, allowing for some daytime heating. And then some storms will be firing up here across portions of, the southern slight risk area here into portions of Kansas, Oklahoma later in the afternoon, as well as up toward New York State into northern portions and northwestern Pennsylvania, northeastern Ohio. We got to watch these storms as well. They could also be very severe, and we could have some damaging winds and hail across these areas. And this will continue as we head into Wednesday evening here as we head through the time. We are seeing here the Weather Prediction Center showing another marginal risk for flash flooding across the southern plains and the central plains as we head into our Wednesday. Slight risk for flash flooding across far southern Kansas, northern Oklahoma as well on Wednesday, so do want to be mindful of that. And then as we look even further here, Thursday, the front will slowly sag down through the Tennessee Valley here into the Gulf Coast states, into through Texas here as well. High pressure system will be kind of developing here across much of the northern plains, the central plains here, and over towards the upper Midwest here with some quieter weather toward the end of the week. And then here this will lead to maybe another chance for some slight risk of severe weather across Maryland, southern New Jersey, far southeastern Pennsylvania, getting into much of Virginia and the northern portion there of North Carolina as we head into our Thursday. And then as we head into our Friday, this front will finally clear the Gulf Coast for the most part here across the Texas area, down through Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama here, with some lingering storms here down towards here the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida. We also got to be worried about some tropical rains across the Florida area here as well, with a lot of moisture with that system here starting to get into the Gulf as we head towards the end of the week and into next weekend. And that does show up across Florida here as well. Portions of Miami getting up towards Tampa. We could have several inches of rainfall here. Also getting down here into portions of the Florida Keys. Got to watch some very heavy rainfall. Also some more heavy rainfall with those training thunderstorms across the southern and central plains from the Missouri Valley all the way down into Oklahoma. A few inches of rainfall here on the order of 1 to 3 plus inches across these areas here as well. Maybe some more rainfall here indeed for portions of the interior New England area from New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire, and then up into portions there of Maine as well. Even some more rainfall here being expected across the Intermountain West here in the Pacific Northwest towards Seattle, Portland, and getting down into northern California as we head through the next 7 days as well. But as we look a little further on, 6 to 10 day temperature outlook is here. The Climate Prediction Center is showing from June 4th through June 8th time period. We're going to see another trough here digging down here across portions of the upper Midwest into the Northeast, and that will bring here, favoring below average temperatures across these areas, especially centered on Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the eastern Dakotas. But that'll extend all the way down toward portions here of the Missouri Valley, the Illinois Valley, and the Ohio Valley, and portions here of the Northeast as well, where it's near normal conditions are expected across the Pacific Northwest. We have a kind of broadening of the ridge across portions of Texas, along the Gulf Coast states here into the Four Corners, where we could have above average temperatures here as well, and much of Alaska here even above average here as we head through June 8th as well. Then as we head through the June 8th time period from June 4th to June 8th, below average precipitation across the upper Great Lakes region here and also across the Texas area getting into the Four Corners, but well above average precipitation is favored across the northern Rockies, getting back into the Pacific Northwest, the Intermountain West, kind of centered on Idaho here as we head into portions of the first week in June. Near normal precipitation across much of the eastern 2/3 of the country, but we do have to be concerned about slightly above average precipitation across the southern peninsula of Florida with some of that tropical rain activity as we head through that time frame as well. And then this ridge will continue to broaden even further as we head through the June 6th through June 12th time frame. This is the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook the Climate Prediction Center did put out, with a ridge continuing here with some smaller scale features with this kind of showing a breakdown of the ridge, and then the ridge starts to reestablish itself, then it breaks down again with that here trough up to the north, and here much below average temperatures across those areas here, almost going through the middle of June. But in general here, as we head towards the June 6th through June 12th time period, a decent amount of the country in the northern half and the eastern half of the country will be above average precipitation here, but only just slightly. And then near normal down towards the Texas region here, getting into Oklahoma, and then below normal precipitation from the southern Four Corners region into west central Texas here towards the middle of June. But even looking even farther, the week 3-4 temperature outlook here, I know this is a little far out, but June 11th through June 24th showing above average temperatures across much of the Texas area, and then including much of the eastern half of the country into the Northeast, where below average here temperatures are favored across the Pacific Northwest, and with equal chances here across the Intermountain West and towards California, the Northern Plains. We could have another here, shortwave trough kind of digging down here in this type of setup, and that is favoring some above average precipitation precipitation across the northern plains into portions of the Pacific Northwest. We're below normal here across the Missouri Valley into the central and southern plains as well. And always got to be concerned about here the Gulf Coast states and into Florida here, where you see towards the June time frame where we have above average precipitation, because that could favor some tropical entities here as we head toward that time frame as well, looking at that. But in general here, this is the Europeans run here as we head towards next Sunday night. This is next Sunday, and we're seeing here another, ridge starting to be reestablished. We got a lot of warm air starting to rise here in the country. We got some lower 100s returning here and can really even continuing here through Texas as we head through this time period as well. And you got a lot of return of moisture here, depending on how the tropical system acts here into the Gulf and into the Atlantic. We do have a lot of moisture return into the central plains here, into the southern plains and portion of the Missouri Valley, and that here could return some 60s and even low 70 dew points here, with a kind of quasi-zonal type of weather pattern kind of settling in here as we head toward the first week or two of June. We could have some wind shear within that here as well for maybe some organized, isolated to scattered severe weather here, but I'm not seeing anything too significant here at this range for any major severe weather or tornado outbreaks here at this time heading into early June. So that is some good news, but do have to watch that here entity potentially here crossing through Florida, maybe getting into the Atlantic here as we head towards the first week or weekend here into June as well, with that very strong, potentially 988 millibar here center with that potentially here tropical storm or hurricane off the here Carolina coast, but that is kind of uncertain, the placement of that here. However, some severe weather across the central plains could be here kind of impacting these areas next Sunday, and that will kind of continue into Monday as that system starts to really strengthen across potentially the Atlantic as we head towards next Monday, June the 6th. So do thank you for watching my video. Do be sure to like my video, give me a nice thumbs up, and do subscribe to my channel. Leave any of your comments below here, but do also subscribe to my channel. My new goal here is 200, so please help me get there, and I know I can. So thank you very much, and have a great Memorial Day, everybody.